$7 billion. Let that number sink in for a second. Welcome, everyone. Today's explainer is diving straight into one of the most devastating financial frauds in history, the Allen Stanford case. For those of us studying financial ethics, dissecting how a deception of this magnitude is built and how it inevitably crumbles is absolutely crucial.
We've got a lot of ground to cover today. We'll start with the illusion of trust, then break down the Ponzi mechanism itself. After that, we'll look at uncovering the fraud and finally wrap up with the ethical cost. All right, let's get into it.
Section 1. The illusion of trust. Because, every major financial fraud basically starts the exact same way, by manufacturing a completely false sense of security.
Think back to 2009 for a minute. The global economic crisis was in full swing. People were terrified, completely panicking about their savings and their futures. And right in the middle of all that chaos, Allen Stanford is actively projecting this image of unshakable success. We're talking private jets, these massive opulent corporate offices, just a total aura of stability. He literally weaponized this lavish image so that terrified investors who were just desperate for a safe harbor would implicitly trust him.
So how did he actually capitalize on that trust? Well, his company promised unusually high profits on what were essentially pitched as standard certificates of deposit, or CDs. He was guaranteeing returns that totally blew traditional banks out of the water, all while assuring people their money was completely safe. From an ethics standpoint, this is a textbook example of exploiting vulnerability. He wrapped a completely non-existent investment in the comforting language of total security.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Ponzi mechanism. Let's look under the hood.
And at first glance, everything looked fantastic, right? Investors were getting regular profits, the company was exploding, but behind the scenes, it was a classic Ponzi scheme. Instead of generating actual returns through legitimate business ventures, the money coming in from new investors was just being recycled and handed straight back to the older investors disguised as profits. This entire multi-billion-dollar operation was secretly built on a foundation of absolutely nothing but incoming capital.
And the victims? He didn't just go after faceless megacorporations. He targeted the life savings of everyday retirees. He took the hard-earned cash of small business owners. And yeah, wealthy investors got caught up in it too. This wasn't just a scam. It was a profound breach of fiduciary duty across the board. Thousands of people from totally different walks of life trusted this guy with their futures, and he preyed on every single one of them just to keep his fraudulent machine running.
Moving on to Section 3. Uncovering the fraud, because an illusion built on fake money, it can really only last so long.
The whole facade started to crack when authorities finally grew suspicious of Stanford's ridiculously consistent returns. And once that official investigation kicked off, the truth that came out was just shocking. Investigators realized that a ton of the bank's official documents were straight-up fakes. The account balances they've been showing to investors and regulators? Completely fabricated. And then the bottom dropped out. They realized a massive chunk of the invested capital didn't even exist. Billions of dollars were literally just gone.
Once the truth hit the light of day, the legal fallout was pretty inevitable. Government agencies moved in, arrested Stanford, and brought a mountain of undeniable evidence to court. This massive, systemic deception ultimately led to a guilty verdict and a very long prison sentence. So the legal system did its job and addressed the crime. But for us, the story definitely doesn't end there.
That brings us to our final part, Section 4, the ethical cost. We need to shift gears from the legal mechanics and look at the real-world human impact.
When the news broke, the lives of thousands of people were completely shattered. We are talking about entire lifetimes of hard work and savings wiped out in a matter of days. Families were financially ruined. The source material describes these just heartbreaking scenes of victims standing outside banks and offices, crying as it dawned on them that everything they had was gone. Like, fraud isn't some victimless crime that just plays out on spreadsheets. It destroys real human lives.
I want to read a powerful excerpt straight from our source material because I think it hits the nail on the head regarding the Stanford case. It says, it was not just money theft, but a betrayal of trust, dreams, and futures that shocked the world. And honestly, that's the core of today's explainer. This wasn't just a financial crime. It was a profound ethical failure. It's a stark reminder that the entire financial industry operates on trust. When you weaponize that trust, the damage is absolutely incalculable.
Which leaves us with a really crucial question for you all to chew on. How did such a massive, gilded trap bypass regulatory scrutiny for so long? As we get ready to transition into our classroom discussion, I really want you to think about this. What systemic failures in financial oversight actually allowed fake documents and fabricated balances to just slip by while billions were being stolen? Think about the ethical responsibilities of everyone involved.
I hope this explainer has given you a solid foundation for your analysis. Let's get into the discussion.